Hello again, and welcome to another episode of the Fun Fans Podcast. I'm your host, James Dillard. With me, as always, my co-host, Bailey Jackson. How you doing, B?
I'm good. I'm hot. It's hot and dry.
Is H-O-T up in her.
It is.
For sure. But anyway, we have a great show for you tonight, and we're going to do a little catching up. That's why I named the show a little catching up. I feel like I've been running around all over the place. Just got back from vacation, had a trip to D.C. Not too long ago, but we're going to talk a little bit about a lot of stuff. Travel, baseball, Johnstone, bass fishing, the Orange and White Alumni Weekend. The list goes on, but let's get started. The Fun Fans are a proud part of the Fanboys Fangirls Sports Podcasting Network. If you're a true sports fan, the Fanboys Fangirls is perfect for you. Find various nationwide podcasts and other sports media at thefanboys.com and all forms of social media. The Fun Fans Podcast is the official podcast for Clemson fans.
And let's don't forget about Reuben's Food, Sports, Spirits, and Catering, the best wings around, with 2 locations in the upstate, 1083 Batesville Road in Greer and 11028 Anderson Road in Piedmont. Find them at RubensC.com. Rubens is simply a great place to eat for all sports fans, but mainly and especially Clemson Tiger fans.
And I got a trip to Rubens in my very, very near future. I can feel it. Hey, and we are also extremely proud to be brought to you by Ivy O'Sullivan Healthcare Services. At Ivy O'Sullivan, they are more than just chiropractors. Since 1977, this family-owned business located in downtown Spartanburg has been helping people with techniques other than the typical twisting and popping that can sometimes make some folks nervous about trying a chiropractor. I've been a patient there my entire life, and I take my own children there as well. If you have an ache or pain, give Ivy O'Sullivan Healthcare a try. And if you mention the Fun Fans Podcast, they will donate 100% of your initial evaluation cost to their charity of the month. So call them at 864-583-3967. That's 864-583-3967. Or find them at ivyosullivan.com to feel better and function at your best. So we're really excited about that. And I'm going to have a testimony of my own on the next show or two.
Okay.
Just to reiterate some stuff for Ivy O'Sullivan. All right. So on with today's show. Speaking of feeling our best, you feel your best, Bailey?
I'm tired. I played in a golf tournament this weekend, 2 days. It was hot. And no, I do have a chiropractor appointment this week, though, set up. But I may have to check out Ivy O'Sullivan Healthcare Services in Spartanburg.
Spartanburg, yeah. It's run by really great folks. Speaking of, the donating to their charity of the month, and it changes every month, obviously. So not worrying about naming that, but just to know you're going to be in good hands, and they do good stuff with the money they make. So last show, or maybe it was a couple of shows ago, we talked about summer slumps and summer lulls. And really my thought process was along the lines of Clemson athletics. So, once the baseball season ended, things really were going to slow down until football and the fall sports kick off. But I just want to get on here and say, I'm not afraid to say I was wrong, because there's still plenty of fun things. And we listed a few things that we didn't want to miss over the summer, like some golf tournaments and the hot dog eating contest and that type thing. But, really, there's a ton of stuff going on, and it's even the Summer Olympics. And that just completely slipped my mind when I was thinking about that. So there are no lulls, especially it's like the athletic directors of the world. There are no days off, right? When it comes to having fun with sports. Bailey, are you Olympics? Do you keep up with the Olympics?
Oh, I love the Summer Olympics. But the reason we probably didn't think about it is because they're really not in our summer. They are 32 days away, and the kids will be back in school almost by then. At least at our place, it will be.
Yeah, it's about a week before the teachers come back in my school, late July. Definitely getting into the speaking of fall sports, coaches clinic type time frame and first open date or whatever they call it now for fall sports with South Carolina high school stuff. So I should know my daughter's got one more year of high school volleyball. So it's on our calendar on my refrigerator, but we hadn't flipped. It's still June. So anyway, no slumps this summer. It's going to be an awesome, fun summer. Speaking of the hot dog eating contest, like right after we mentioned that, I see on the news, Joey Chestnut is out. Okay, I'm going to read a quote Banned for inking a deal with a company that makes plant-based Franks. Organizers of the Nathan's Famous Hot Dog Eating Contest said Tuesday that they banned Chestnut from the July 4th event after he signed an endorsement deal with Impossible Foods, which recently launched a new marketing campaign specifically targeting meat eaters. Major League Eating, or as more commonly known,
the MLE,
the organization that oversees professional competitive eating, including but not limited to hot dogs, said in a statement that Chestnut had chosen to represent a rival brand rather than compete in its storied Coney Island contest. And this is all from NPR.org. We love Joey and support him in any contest he chooses, an Impossible Company spokesman said in a statement shared with NPR. It's okay to experiment with a new dog. Meat eaters shouldn't have to be exclusive to just one wiener. That's a quote. That's not from here. So anyway.
Well, so I dug into this a little bit, and I appreciate you sharing me the NPR article, which may be the first NPR article I've ever read in its entirety.
Ever.
But Joey Chestnut, let's just go through some stats here, okay?
He's the king.
First of all, I think it's. I'm just like to be honest on here. I think it's ridiculous that there's a major league eating organization.
So,
all right,
you've seen dodgeball.
Yeah,
it reminds me of the officials in the
right.
preliminary dodgeball tournament, maybe, but I could be wrong.
So Chestnut won his first Nathan's hot dog eating contest in 2007. Since then, every year except 2015, where he was upset by an upstart. Didn't even write his name down. He has won the mustard yellow belt every year except one. Now, he has eaten enough hot dogs to go double the height of the Statue of Liberty during those wins.
Oh my gosh.
In 2021, he set a world record, according to the MLE, of 76 hot dogs in 10 minutes. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to say in the last 3 years, I have not eaten 76 hot dogs. Okay? Maybe. Yeah,
I'm confident I have not eaten. I'm
definitely going with that.
Yeah.
You know what? I like hot dogs, but I like chili on them, and I like the cheap chili you find in the can that's really probably not real chili.
Oh, yeah. Ruth.
Anyway, Joey Chestnut also holds other MLE world records.
Of course he does.
It's a did you know tonight.
Okay.
He ate 141 boiled eggs in 8 minutes. He ate 390 shrimp wontons in 8 minutes. Okay. And he ate, now this sounds more appealing to me, 47 grilled cheese sandwiches in 10 minutes.
Yeah. Get down some grilled cheese sandwiches.
Now, here's who you need to have on your radar, fans. Number 2, Jeffrey Esper. He's the number 2 ranked eater in the world. All right. And according to the MLE spokesperson, he is a true multidisciplinary eater. I do not know what that means. Other than he also won a pizza eating contest. So I guess that is the discipline there. The different types of foods are the disciplines that they're referring to.
That's so awesome.
The only reason I ever watched the hot dog eating contest is because we play golf every 4th of July at like 7:30 in the morning, and it's on when we get finished in the clubhouse. Other than that, this is gross. This is gluttonous behavior, and I just think it is an American tradition, I guess. But my favorite quote is from Chestnut himself.
What's he say?
He said that the decision by the MLE and Nathan's will, quote, deprive the great fans of the holiday's usual joy and entertainment. Okay, Joey, you're not taking away from our 4th of July, pal. I'm sorry.
The quote I saw, yeah, he said something about he just loves doing it, and he didn't know he was under any, or he's not under any contracts, I don't think, but he just loves doing that as one way for him to celebrate America. So that was pretty
Well,
cool.
it is. Okay, let's move on.
Thank you for digging into that,
No problem.
Coach Jackson. Speaking of awesome stories, I am still amazed that on our last show, if you didn't see our last show, folks, go back and find last week's show. We had 2 guests. It was a double guest show. We had an officer from the United States Space Force. How cool is that? And he gave some no, that was 2 shows ago. Last show was the media
Right.
worker from the baseball, but then we also had the interview with Coach Cliff Ellis. So the past couple of shows, we've had 3 awesome guests. So, been kind of a blur to me because, like I say, I've been traveling so much. So go back and check out those other shows. And speaking of travel, okay, so I drove to D.C. to get my daughter, packed her up, moved her home. It was not a vacation.
Right.
So it's about 7 hours. You look at it, you think it's about 7 hours, but then you get into traffic and it's not 7 hours. It's forever.
Right.
It's well documented on this show about my traffic anxiety. I could tell a whole story about how we woke up and all of a sudden what should be a 45-minute drive, but we know is normally an hour drive, was suddenly a 2 hour and 15-minute drive. But we won't go into that whole story and the anxiety that caused me.
Well, I appreciate that.
What we will talk about, though, is, when you're driving so much, it's like you're alone with your thoughts for a lot of the time. I don't know if your family's like mine. They're doing a lot of sleeping and they got their buds in their ears and that kind of stuff.
Right.
But there are some times when there's some discussion and some talk. This particular topic, very interesting topic, came up. We're in the 2020s, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you tell me if I'm wrong. If somebody's talking and they just say the 20s in reference to a time of frame, I still think of the 1920s, the roaring
20s.
Right.
Yes.
There's no name. We're living at a time. We're blessed, and we're living at a time where there's no name for our current decade. So right here on the Fun Fans podcast, we are about to dub our decade. We're dubbing the decade. We're going to give it the name, spread the word. You heard it here first. The 2020s from this point forward shall be referred to as the 20s.0.
Okay.
And that will differentiate from the 20s, aka the roaring 20s, the 1920s.
Well, I would say it might be the insane 20s as well.
Yeah. There's a lot we could talk
So
about there.
I don't know that. I don't know if you
2020.
saw this, but in the final round of the Travelers Championship today in Connecticut, the last 2 players, Scotty Scheffler, number 1 player in the world, and this guy named Tom Kim, were coming down the stretch. Scheffler needed a par, and Kim needed to make this birdie putt to force a playoff. And right before all that, there was all this chaos, and these protesters ran out on the green through the bunker. You saw it at the corner of the screen, the security and police officers chasing this dude, and they dropped green, white, and red residue and smoke bombs on the green, and they were all wearing white T-shirts that said "No golf on a dead planet." Okay. One of the golfers in the group said I was scared for my life. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I wouldn't have been scared for. I have a golf club in my hand. I'm not going to be scared for my life, but it was weird. Okay, yeah. It was weird, and it was. It's an activist group with a history of disrupting events around the world. All right, so we live in a time that's the 20s.0.
20.0.
That more and more. This almost like the late 60s, the rebellious eras and the protests and things like that. And it's your right as an American, and many people have fought and died and all that. So you have that right, but please, let's be careful out there. And I would not storm a green where everybody down there had a golf club in their hand.
No, that's right.
Yeah.
That's both show. All right. So speaking of being safe, we talked about on here also about being safe on the lake. Bailey, did you know something else that I found out? That Lake Hartwell here in South Carolina is apparently becoming the bass fishing capital of the world. We've hosted the Bass Masters Classic or whatever multiple times here in just the past couple of years. But yesterday, this past couple of days, I think it ended yesterday, that Lake Hartwell hosted the high school fishing world finals and national championship. Were you aware of that? Do y'all have a team?
Yeah, we do have a team actually. And I'm sure we had some fishermen and fisherwomen
Fisher people
in that event. It is if you're not familiar with it, it is a whole nother animal. And
Yes.
Lake Wiley hosts a lot of competitions. They drive all over the Southeast to participate in these fishing competitions. And so it is truly, it's a world and national sport.
So we hosted, there were teams from all over the country. South Africa was one of the places, some countries in Europe. So we just hope that the upstate South Carolina hosted them well. We hope they had a fun time with us. And you know what it takes to round up a bunch of high school kids fishing?
Boats, one. And then you also have to have W energy.
You got to have some energy. Go to w.gg and enter promo codes FUNFANS for 10% off of your Jitterless energy drink. You know, they have some in cans now. It's like already mixed up. So that's awesome. You can get you a can of that. All right. This is kind of a sad moment. So we're going through a lot of, like I say, we're going through a lot of things, just talking a little bit about a lot of things. So some other things that and we knew it was coming. People knew it was coming, right? This is not news, but it finally happened. There's been a lot of change on Clemson's campus over the years, but from what we are being told, Johnstone and the student union, as we knew it, is no more. If you're listening to the audio only, you cannot see this picture, but it shows the demo. That's Johnstone in the middle background, right? So that's what's being knocked down right here. Initially, it would be the student union or some other part of Johnstone, maybe, but
yeah,
supposedly it is GO gone. So I did a little digging into that, and that's a very sad moment. Went on for decades and decades. It was built in 1954, Johnstone Hall Complex. The design became a model for college dormitories, implementing a new raised slab construction method, a practice which was featured in many architectural magazines at the time. Johnstone Hall was the largest building complex erected using this method. Campus legend said that 2 other similar structures built elsewhere collapsed before completion. So we don't know. It says legend. So some other neat facts are Clemson's first African-American student and future Charlotte mayor, Harvey Gantt, lived in Johnstone. I'm sure it was full of plenty of famous people formerly lived there, like podcast host Bailey Jackson. Maybe did you stay in Johnstone?
No, I never did live in Johnstone. Actually, my brother did. And funny, I have a funny story. I thought they were originally built as somewhat temporary structures.
Yes, I was told it was supposed to be temporary
because they basically just put. And correct me if I'm wrong, because you certainly did the research. Concrete slabs made up each floor. So they would build a floor, add the beams and structure, add another concrete floor, and so on. And funny story for me is I got lost in Johnstone at baseball camp. Now, I did stay in Johnstone several summers when I went to Clemson Tiger baseball camp. And it was the last day of camp, and we were trying to all get a shower at the same time so we could go home. So some of us went to another shower around the corner, and, we're going to the shower. So we have our towel and whatever. And guess what? I got lost trying to find my way back to my room, and everybody's mom and dad are coming in there moving them out. And I'm walking around the halls going, yeah, I'm looking for my room. And I really probably didn't know where my room was to begin with.
Right.
But hey, we used to go bowling in the bowling alley.
Yep.
Got my mail at the post office. Ate in Harcum. Bookstore was down there.
Yep.
I lived right over in the fraternity quad my freshman year, and we would walk through that tunnel to go to Harcum.
Yep.
Every meal. So yeah, it's a little bit sad.
A little somber moment. So one final fact, and I got all this from Wikipedia, by the way.
Oh,
cite our
trusted
sources
source.
here on the
Trusted source.
yeah. Most of the rooms had been taken out of use by the mid 1990s, so that's as we were or after we were leaving, as obsolete because the electrical wiring was not grounded.
Wow.
What?
No wonder I felt the hair on my arm stand up every time I walked in there.
Wait, what? That for what? 40 something years. The
Well,
electrical wiring
Johnstone walls were basically
was like sheet metal.
walls.
Yeah, so is that grounding or is that like worse than not being grounded?
And then between the rooms, there was basically plywood.
Yes.
And like, because I remember my brother and the guys that lived next to him, there was actually a way they could get from room to room through the closet because it was plywood, and they had taken out a section of it.
Wow.
So, yeah, who knows what, all
kind
the
of
stories
stories
from Johnstone. I mean, they were not in great shape in the early 90s. I can tell you that.
Yeah, that's right. So, okay. And finally, the Carolina Panthers, speaking of throwback to the mid 90s,
that's it, baby.
The
96.
Carolina Panthers are having a fan fest, or you tell me if I'm wrong, but my impression is Clemson is hosting a fan fest for the Carolina Panthers in Clemson Stadium because it's the 30-year or something of when they had their inaugural season.
Well,
in Clemson, I'm sure the Panthers. Yeah, it wouldn't be 30 years, but the Panthers, I'm sure, are going to have their own fan fest in Charlotte, like they always do.
Yeah,
or wherever the deal. Now.
So they are no longer practicing. They're no longer having training camp at Wofford.
Right.
So they have to figure out a way to touch the upstate of South Carolina, because the Carolina Panthers, the logo itself, the panther is shaped like the two states together. Well, they've pretty much, with the situation that went on in Rock Hill, if you're familiar with that.
Slightly.
I mean, they built a brand new interchange on the interstate, and then it all fell apart. Yeah. But so they have to figure out a way to reach South Carolina fans, South Carolinians, I guess is a good way.
Palmetto State.
I'm going to pull for them because they're local, and I really hope they win. It's kind of like the O's, you just hang in there, hang in there, and it'll get turned around. And so hopefully that'll help. I'm not going to make it on August 1st to the Fan Fest. I can't think of any place I'd rather be anywhere, probably, instead of, it's going to be hot and it's going to be preseason football with no game.
With no football.
Yeah. So anyway.
So hopefully some Panther fans, and see, you're starting to get close to where people pull for the Falcons. So I don't know what crowd, but they might draw a crowd of folks that went to Clemson to see that first season.
Why is that?
I don't know. Some people are just nostalgic, especially once they get our age, and they're
why? Do you know why Falcon fans are down that way?
Because that's all there was for decades.
Well, because Channel 7 played every Falcons game.
Well, that was
when we were growing up. Channel 3 in Charlotte played every Redskins game.
Yeah.
Channel 7, if we got that antenna on top of this house just right, you could get the Falcons game, because it'd be 2 CBS games.
Yeah.
I bet I was a huge Redskins fan, so that didn't matter to me, but that's why. So anyway.
That's why so many people around here are Cubs fans, and they've never stepped to Chicago because of WGN. That's right. So, yeah, but that's a great fan story too. Just, you grew up watching something, and you're a fan. So go Panthers, and I hope it's a great turnout. And we will be there, or at least plan to be there the next day, because August 2nd is the Orange and White alumni and that Friday night event. So this is it's kind of an announcement. We talk about this. Find the links on our social media. Google Orange and White Alumni Weekend. It's a fundraiser. If you listen to the Coach Ellis interview, we talked about it a little more in depth. But I want to point out that most of these events are free. This tailgate party on Friday night, you can just show up. And if you listen to what Coach Ellis said, there folks, I don't know who's going to be there this year. I've heard Brinson Buckner, but folks like Grayson Marshall, Dale Davis, LaVon Kirkland, Michael Dean Perry, who's been on our show, is usually there. Wayne Buckingham, of course, and just all kind of former Clemson. Danny Ford's and all that stuff. And that Friday night tailgate's free. The Saturday night gala, you make a donation to get a table, and there's other ways you can make a donation, find a business or something like that to make a donation, get in on a table and enjoy the gala that night. But there are some autograph signing activities on Saturday that are also free. And then the golf tournament on Sunday, it costs to enter a team. I think the prices are very much like any other fundraiser golf tournaments, like $800 a team or something like that. Don't quote me, but just go and find out. If you're a Clemson fan, go to that weekend and support it. We're going to be there helping them promote it. And it's a really good time, and we really enjoyed it. So speaking of going to Clemson, we probably will not be there on the 1st, but we'll be there that following weekend. All right. Speaking of something where there is a game, College World Series. That's been going on, and we're going to save maybe for another show a discussion on whether or not it's good for college sports to have 2 or less conferences represented in, a postseason event like, the College World Series. It was all ACC and SEC, and of course that's great for ACC and SEC fans, but is it great for the sport as a whole? But we will save that for another show. Bailey, what am I missing? Speaking of Atlanta.
Well, the series is tied 1-1, so the final game is tomorrow night regardless. Texas A&M and Tennessee.
Finish the story about the college. And it's been some good baseball. Those kids are good.
Well, we need to talk that, Clemson football is right around the corner, and we are a significant underdog to the Georgia Bulldogs. But that's no problem. Hey, backs against the wall early. Let's go.
And see, the thing about that spread, and of course, we're not ones to get into talking about that. When those two teams play, I'm whatever disclaimer I need to say, but I would take Clemson, and not because I'm a Clemson fan and not because I think they're going to win, but those games are so close. It's like a defensive battle that we rarely see in college football nowadays. Every time they play, and it's a 13-point spread. So
I'm just going to go out on a limb here, and I know we haven't played a snap, but I don't know why people are sleeping on Clemson, because they have 1 or 2 really good receivers that have come in. They have a great running back to back up Maffa that has come in. They are killing the offensive line recruiting. Okay, the defense is back pretty much. And Klubnik has another year that he's worked with the same offensive coordinator, and Cole Turner's back. Everybody's healthy. I really expect this to be special. So
better out. Yeah, I agree.
And I don't know why the haters are going to hate, but you know what? What would be better than not tapping into the portal and beating everybody? Should have been Florida State last year.
Well, I was going to say, if there's a reason why folks aren't taking, they're sleeping on Clemson, is because everybody thinks, well, this is how you do it now, blah, 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 blah. And Dabo is doing what he always does, which is normally just win a bunch of games. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It's what I think.
Correct.
Anyway. All right. So we'll get into that conversation about the conferences on another time.
Can I say one more thing?
Yeah, let's do it.
Especially the way they came out last year, first game of the year against Duke. I do not think that will happen again.
That's a good point.
I do not think it will happen again. And I know the guys that were there won't let it happen. And I'm pretty sure the coaching staff won't let it happen.
Well, and no matter what happens at that game in Atlanta, it's going to be fun. I wish we were going. My daughter has a volleyball tournament, so it's just one of them things. But then the first home game, the time has been announced to kick off for 8 p.m. So some people might have to dial back the fun they have on an 8 p.m. kickoff. We know how that can be. But that will help, hopefully, with the heat. You can get there plenty early, get there, still get there 3, 4, 5 hours before the game. And by then the sun will be on its way down, and maybe it won't be so blame
it's going to be hot.
It's going to be hot. But then in the game, the sun, that time of year, the second or so week of September, maybe it'll be dark and such, so that can help. So that'll be awesome. And against a really good App State program. So that'll be awesome. Definitely looking forward to football season. And that was a great show. A little bit about a whole lot. Hope you enjoyed the show. It's always good to catch up. Spread the word on the 20.0. It's going to be a great decade. And let's see each other at the Orange and White weekend, that first weekend in August. Thanks again for checking us out each and every Sunday. Don't forget to click subscribe on the Fun Fans Podcast YouTube channel, as well as your favorite podcast platform. Follow us on social media and share. Please reach out to become a sponsor. On behalf of the Fun Fans Podcast, Jay Thriller Entertainment, the Fanboys Fangirls Podcast Network, Rubens and Ivy O'Sullivan Healthcare Services, and Bailey Jackson.
That's right. 30 minutes on the nose, James. Good job.
Go Tigers.